Okay, we're going to do a pretty quick install here of Linux Mint. This is just getting us started up and running. And all we're going to do in this video is we're going to get it installed. And then we're going to run our first update. And Linux Mint, if you haven't used this before, is a relatively friendly Linux installation. If you want to move away from Microsoft Windows, this is going to be a relatively friendly environment for you to work in. It's going to look a little bit more like Windows 7 than like Windows 11, but it is a lot softer landing into the Linux world than some of the other distributions just at their default desktop environment. So you'll go to linuxmint.com, the link will be down in the description. Go to downloads, that'll bring you here. You'll just want to scroll down a little bit, and there's multiple locations you can download this from. Click the one that's possibly closest to you. Most people are just going to click the first one that's there, which is the worldwide, and that's going to download the ISO for you. Then you're going to want to use something like Rufus or Balena Etcher. Both of these tools are really good to make your bootable drive, and you're going to need to use something like a USB thumb drive or an external SSD, depending on what you have available to you, to go ahead and make this. Now, I'm on a Linux system already, so these tools aren't going to work for me, but Balena Etcher is kind of the easier one to use. It walks you through it step by step. Rufus takes care of a lot of things for you, gives you a little bit more control over things. But go ahead and download your ISO, and when it says boot selection here in Rufus, find where you've downloaded that ISO, and then find your destination drive. Now that thumb drive or that external drive, that is going to get formatted. There's going to be no data on there, and then it's going to make the bootable drive. So use a drive that has nothing on it that matters to you, because it will be gone. Okay, that's very, very important to understand. That data will be gone. So once you've done that, you're going to plug that drive in, you're going to reboot your system, and you're going to want to boot to that external drive. So what you're going to see next is us booted up into the Linux installer for Linux Mint. Okay, so we've just booted the system here. So we have a few options of what we want to choose. And what we're going to do is we're just going to make it real simple. We're going to start Linux Mint. So just choose the first option there. And it's going to go ahead and start up a live Linux Mint environment. Okay, so I know this still doesn't look exactly right. It seems like it's a little bit off on size. But that's because this is a live environment. This is not actually your installed operating system. This is running from the external drive you have. So next thing we're going to want to do here is we're going to just install Linux Mint. All right, and select your language. In my case, I speak English. Select your keyboard layout. US English for me. And we're just going to continue on. Now, this option here is unchecked by default. The reason is because most of these multimedia codecs, they are not open source. And so because some people, when they go Linux, they want to be all open source, they want full control of everything, these aren't installed by default. Make sure to hit this checkbox so that when you go to watch a video or audio format or certain websites, things do load correctly. So go ahead and continue from there. Now, the next option here is very, very important. By default, at least for my choices, because there's nothing on the storage that I'm putting this on, it's saying erase the entire disk. If this is your system that has data on it that does matter to you, either stop what you're doing, reboot into Windows, and back up your data, or choose this something else option, where you can choose dual booting options in there. What I'm going to do, though, is in this case, I'm going to erase the entire disk. Now, I'm going to click this advanced features just so you can see what's here. One of the options is to use LVM, which is the Linux Volume Manager, to do the drive. And this allows you to actually encrypt your drive. And if you choose this, you'll actually need to type in a decryption password every time you boot your computer before you actually get to your user password. So if you've got a laptop that you take places or somebody might pick up and grab, this is a really good choice because if you were to take the drive out of there, people can't read that data if they were to take your storage right out of the system. They can't boot this system without knowing how to decrypt that drive. So it's a really good option. And let's go ahead and hit install now. Now this is for that encryption here, so I'm going to give it a key that I'm going to create. And you can enable a recovery key, which it would then create as well, that you would want to make a backup of. This is really needed if you need to extract this data or for some reason disconnected it from the main system and aren't going to be able to boot to it. So I'm not going to need to use that system. We're just going to continue forward. But if you were to do that, you'd want to go ahead and hit this right here to make a backup of that recovery key so that you can see it. Or you can click this little eyeball feature, which will show you that recovery key, and you can copy and paste. You can type that out or write it on a piece of paper or whatever. But that key, that security key, is very needed if you want to be able to read this data ever again from a different system. I don't need that. I'm not going to worry about it. Additionally, for more security, overwrite empty disk space. This will take longer to install. This is if you're really looking for a secure wipe of that drive. I'm not going to do that for this presentation. I'm just going to hit install now. So now it just wants to confirm you are going to do this. All the data on your hard drive or on your internal system drive is about to get wiped out. Again, if you're coming from another operating system and there was something important on that drive, make sure you have it backed up because it's going to be gone as soon as you click that continue button. But if you've made your backup or you don't care about this drive, let's go ahead and hit continue. Select your location and hit continue. Now, throughout this process, one thing that's not happening for me, because this is a virtual machine, it's already connected to a network, it didn't ask me for Wi-Fi information or anything along those lines. Yours might ask you for that if it doesn't see a network connection already. Go ahead and connect your Wi-Fi with your password. You'll be up and running. But now let's go ahead and get this set up. So I'm going to go ahead and just put my name in here. I'm going to leave that by default, but hey, name your computer something that is unique or nice to you, something you want to have. Give yourself a password. And continue. That's going to take a few minutes to go ahead and copy stuff over. It's going to give you little bits of information about how to use the operating system or what's actually on the operating system here. And you can just kind of click through, read these things. It's not overly helpful. It's just stuff that's there to tell you about it. So I'm going to go ahead and fast forward through this as we let the install finish. And there we go. It's now actually fully installed. I'm going to go ahead and hit restart now. And that's going to go ahead and take us out of this. Now it's saying just that this would be a good time to go ahead and unplug your USB drive because it's just going to go ahead and reboot the system. And go ahead and hit enter and it'll fully reboot. You'll be up and running. Now, because I encrypted my drive, it wants my code, my key that I typed, the one I typed, not the one I said to export. This is the one I typed to create everything. Now it's saying everything's good, and it can continue to boot. Now actually I'm going to log into the system. Now here we are. We are in Linux, and you can see we're still kind of not sized right. So let's take a look at, this could be a limitation of my virtual machine. I might have to make some changes there. But I just right-clicked, hit display settings, and let's take that up to 1920 by 1080. Keep change. There we go. That looks much better. Now, when you first load Linux Mint, it's going to give you this startup dialog. I'm going to go and uncheck this box, but it does have some nice pieces of information, additional tools that you can use, some additional documentation to find things, help information, all right there. And then, of course, they would like you to contribute in some way, whether it's through donation or other things. Keep in mind, Linux Mint is a free, and I mean financially free operating system, so you don't have to pay for it. So anything you can do if you end up really liking this project to help is a good thing. So the next thing I said we were going to do is we're going to update the system. And there's two ways we can go about doing this. So the first one is you can use the graphical interface. Let me go ahead and click O, which is giving you a little indication right here that there's an update down in the lower right corner. Click on that, and it can bring you the graphical interface. Click OK, and it's looking for an update for the update manager. Now, that's one really great way to do this. But if you want to do the more, what I consider fun and Linux way, you can go to your terminal here. Okay, so we have our terminal here. We want to do an update on this. And to do that, we need to type sudo. Sudo, or sudo, depending on how you want to say it, is going to escalate you from normal user privilege to administrative privilege. So you are acting, sudo stands for super user do, or sudo, which gives you full root control or full system control of the computer. Then we say apt, which is the installation tool, the package manager for that, the aptitude package manager for Linux Mint. And we're going to say update and hit enter. It's going to ask me for the password I used to log into the system. And it's going to check and look for any updates for this. And saying, you know what, there are 222 things that need to be updated. That's great. The next instruction it gives you would be to show you what those are going to be. And if you really want to control these things and look at them and select and unselect things, run the instruction that it has there. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to skip that. I'm looking for to update this. So I'm going to say sudo apt upgrade. Now you do have to do both of those steps. Update updates the local listing of what you're going to have, and upgrade is giving it the instruction to actually do those updates. We're going to hit enter. It's going to challenge you, hey, there's about, in this case, 376 megs of additional space is going to be needed to use for this. I'm going to say yes, hit enter, and it's going to go through and apply all of those updates. So that's doing this all from the command line. Do you need to do it that way? No. Why did I do it that way? Well, I find it more fun, and hey, if you're getting into Linux, you may as well have a little fun with that. But the truth is, you could do all of that from here. Now I'm going to do a quick refresh just to see if it actually updated this tool as well, because sometimes it does. Hey, there we go. System's fully up to date. But you could absolutely have just hit yes to the option that was there, and it would have done the update as well. One nice thing with the Linux environment is when applying updates, you rarely actually have to reboot the computer afterwards. I'm not going to say never. There are some people who will tell you it never happens. I'm going to tell you every once in a while you will, but not as often. What I clicked down here in the corner was just kind of a little alert. It's just telling you there's more stuff you can do, including setting up a backup system to external drives. This is a really nice additional feature, but that's for you to decide how you want to take care of your backups and long-term use. In the future, I'll make a video about how to actually install applications on Linux, and we'll do some navigating of the operating system and just getting ourselves comfortable with the user interface. But for now, you've got a menu that's very much like Windows 7, and right there is the Firefox web browser. So you can go ahead and start browsing the web. One thing that I always kind of forget about with first setting up a Linux system in dealing with Firefox itself is if I go to settings right here, there is one feature I need to make sure to turn on. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to watch YouTube videos, and that's not fun. So let's scroll down here, and I just need to find the option about allowing DRM controlled content. And that's going to be right here, digital rights management content. Go ahead and click that checkbox so you can watch YouTube videos or or your other streaming services. Without that checked, it would seem kind of pointless to be able to watch videos through your browser. Thanks, and have a great day.